I stared at the text message. I was currently on my knees scrubbing my parents' floor because my dad had called me wheezing, swearing he was having a heart attack. I had unlocked that credit card limit hours ago to pay for his emergency surgery. But he wasn't in the hospital. A second notification popped up. Linda is live. Surprise engagement bash. I tapped the screen, and there was my dying father, holding a bottle of Dom Perignon and laughing. He looked straight at the camera and shouted over the music. Thank God Lily is so gullible, or we'd be drinking tap water tonight. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. My name is Lily, and I'm 29 years old. Well, 30 as of today. Though it certainly doesn't feel like a celebration. I'm a certified internal auditor. My entire life is built on finding the truth hidden in numbers, spotting the discrepancies that everyone else misses. But for 29 years, I missed the biggest fraud of all. And it was happening right under my own roof. 6 hours earlier, I had been a different person. I was standing in front of my full-length mirror, smoothing down the silk of a dress I had bought 3 months ago specifically for tonight. I had reservations at a small, candlelit Italian place, a table for one, because I learned a long time ago that waiting for my family to celebrate me was a recipe for heartbreak. I was going to turn 30 with dignity, with a glass of good wine and a book I'd been dying to read. I felt good. I felt independent. I felt free. Then the phone rang. It was my father. He didn't say hello. He just wheezed. A terrible, wet, rattling sound that made my blood freeze. Lily, he gasped, his voice tight with panic. Lily, I think it's the big one. My chest. Dad? I gripped the phone, my knuckles turning white. Dad, call 911. No ambulance, he choked out. Too expensive. Your mother. She's trying to get the car keys. But Buster is going crazy. He's sick too, Lily. Vomiting everywhere. Mom can't handle him and drive me. You need to come. Please. I'm scared. I didn't think. I didn't question. I just reacted. I unzipped my birthday dress and let it fall to the floor. I pulled on old leggings and a sweatshirt. I grabbed my keys and sprinted to my car. I drove 20 minutes across town in the pouring rain, my hazard lights flashing, praying I wasn't going to be an orphan by midnight. When I burst into their apartment, it smelled like sickness and stale air. My dad was slumped on the sofa, clutching his left arm, his face pale. Mom was frantically looking for her purse. Take the card, I said, pulling the authorized user visa from my wallet, the one I kept for his prescriptions because his insurance gap was a nightmare. Dad, take it. If they need to admit you, if there's a copay, just swipe it. Do not worry about the money. Just stay alive. He looked at me with those watery, fearful eyes. He took the card. His hand was shaking. You're a good girl, Lily, he whispered. You stay here with Buster. Don't let him ruin the rugs. That was the last thing he said to me. You're a good girl. Now, I looked down at my phone screen in the dark. The blue light illuminated the bile stain I had just scrubbed. On the live stream, the man who couldn't breathe 6 hours ago was currently standing on a chair. His face wasn't pale. It was flushed with adrenaline and expensive scotch. He wasn't clutching his chest. He was clutching a microphone. To Tyler, Gregory bellowed, his voice booming over the club speakers, strong and clear. The son who actually makes me proud. I watched my mother, Pamela. The woman who was supposedly too shaken to drive was currently doing a conga line with Linda's bridesmaids. She looked radiant. She looked young. She didn't look like a woman whose husband had just survived a heart attack. She looked like a woman who had successfully pawned off her chores on the family servant so she could go play. They hadn't just lied to me. They had scripted a scene. They had performed a tragedy to ensure I wouldn't be there to ruin their aesthetic with my presence, or worse, ask why I wasn't invited. They needed a babysitter for the sick dog. And they needed a bankroll for the bar tab. I was the only person in the world who could provide both. I watched. Frozen. My thumb hovered over the screen, trembling. And then the camera panned back to my father. He was shouting over the music to Linda. The audio was clear, crisp, undeniable. He said, "Thank God Lily is so gullible about my health, or we'd be drinking tap water tonight. She's useless for everything but paying bills." The table erupted in laughter. My mother laughed. My brother laughed. Linda laughed and blew a kiss to the camera. They weren't just using me. They were mocking me for being used. They were celebrating their cleverness, their ability to trick the stupid daughter into funding their lifestyle. I didn't cry. That's the first thing people ask me. Did you cry? No. Tears are for people who are hurt. I wasn't hurt. I was dead. Something inside me, some small, hopeful part that had spent 3 decades craving their approval, simply quietly died. Why didn't I scream? Why didn't I call the bank right then and report the fraud? Why didn't I shut down the card and leave them with a $6,000 bill they couldn't pay? Because when you are raised to be the fuel for someone else's fire, burning yourself to keep them warm doesn't feel like pain. It feels like duty. For 29 years, I had been trained to believe that my value lay solely in my utility. I was the fixer, the banker, the safety net. You don't thank a refrigerator for keeping your food cold, but you kick it when it stops working. Tonight, I realized I wasn't their daughter. I was an appliance, and this appliance was about to stop running. I took a screenshot of the video. Then I started a screen recording, capturing every second of their joy, every word of their mockery. I opened my banking app and downloaded the transaction log, the timestamp matching perfectly with the live stream. I saved it all to a secure cloud folder. Then I stood up. I finished cleaning the rug. I rinsed the rag. I put the cleaning supplies back under the sink. I didn't leave. I didn't run away. I sat back down on their couch, in the dark, and I waited. At 2:14 in the morning, the front door rattled. I heard the fumble of keys, a suppressed giggle, and then the door swung open. The smell hit me first, a wave of stale gin, expensive perfume, and the greasy scent of late-night diner food. My family stumbled in like a pack of triumphant teenagers. Tyler was first, his tie undone, his blazer thrown over his shoulder. He stopped when he saw me sitting in the dark on the armchair, the cleaning rag still folded neatly on the coffee table. He didn't look guilty. He looked annoyed. "Jesus, Lily," he slurred, blinking in the dim light. "Why are you sitting there like a gargoyle? It's creepy." He tossed his keys onto the table. They slid across the surface and hit my hand. "Since you're still here, clean the kitchen before you go." Mom made a mess trying to find her purse earlier. Then came my parents. Gregory, the man whose heart was supposedly failing him hours ago, walked in with a steady, heavy step. He saw me and immediately hunched his shoulders, putting a hand to his chest in a pantomime of lingering pain. It was a performance so lazy it was insulting. It was a false alarm, he grunted, avoiding my eyes. Doctors said it was severe indigestion. Acid reflux. Mimics a heart attack exactly. Scary stuff. Indigestion, I repeated. My voice was calm. Flat. And the Sapphire Lounge? Was that part of the treatment plan? The room went dead silent. Linda, who had been checking her makeup in the hallway mirror, froze. My mother looked at my father. My father looked at the floor. "We needed to decompress," my mother said, her voice rising into that defensive shrill I knew so well. "Your father was traumatized, Lily. We all were. We went for a nightcap to calm our nerves. And, well, Tyler and Linda had good news. We couldn't just ignore it. You wouldn't want us to ruin their moment just because you were stuck here, would you?" There it was, the pivot. In her mind, I was the villain for making them feel awkward about their lie. I looked at them. Really looked at them. For years, I saw my family through a filter of desperate affection. I saw their flaws as quirks. I saw their cruelty as stress. But tonight, the filter was gone. I saw them with the eyes of an auditor looking at a fraudulent ledger. I saw liabilities. I saw bad debts. I saw parasites. I stood up. I picked up Tyler's keys and dropped them back into his hand. "I understand completely," I said. I forced the corners of my mouth up into a smile. It felt tight, foreign, but it worked. "I'm just so glad Dad is okay. And Tyler, Linda, congratulations. A wedding. That's huge." Tyler puffed out his chest, his arrogance returning instantly. "Yeah, well, it's going to be the event of the decade. If we can pull it off. Venues are a nightmare." "I can help," I said. My mother blinked. "You?" "I manage logistics for a living, Mom. I audit supply chains. I know how to read contracts. I know how to negotiate. And I know how to manage a budget." I walked over to the kitchen island where Linda had dumped her purse. "You guys spent $6,000 tonight. That's my birthday present to you. Consider it the deposit. But for the wedding? You need a general. You need someone to handle the dirty work so you can be the stars." I looked at Linda. "You don't want to be stressing over florist invoices, do you? You need to focus on your look. Your brand." Linda's eyes lit up. The bait was taken. "God. Lily. That would be amazing. I literally can't deal with math right now. I'll do it all. I promised. Free of charge. My gift to the happy couple." They smiled. They hugged me. They thought they had won. They thought they had secured their servant for another 6 months. They didn't realize that by handing me the planning, they were handing me the kill switch. The trap wasn't sprung the next day. It took weeks. You don't take down a narcissist with a hammer. You take them down with a mirror. You use their own vanity against them. 3 weeks later, we were sitting in the VIP office of the Onyx Room, the most exclusive, overpriced venue in the city. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen fireworks. The view of the skyline was breathtaking. The rental fee alone was $40,000. I sat across from the venue manager, a sleek woman named Sarah who smelled like old money. Tyler and Linda sat next to me, vibrating with excitement. "We love it," Linda squealed, gripping Tyler's arm. "We have to have it." "Tyler, put down the deposit." Tyler reached for his wallet, puffing up like a peacock. This was his moment. The big man. The provider. "Actually," I interrupted, placing a hand on the leather portfolio I had brought. "Before we sign anything, there is a security issue we need to address." Linda stopped. "Security?" I turned to her, keeping my face dead serious. "Linda, your following is growing. You're practically a public figure now. If we book this venue under standard terms, there are no paparazzi protections. Anyone can stand on the street and take photos up into the ballroom. Do you want unauthorized photos of your dress leaking online before you post them? Do you want poor people staring at you while you eat?" Linda looked horrified. "Ew. No. Absolutely not." "I thought so," I said soothingly. "That's why I drafted a privacy rider." I pulled a thick document out of my folder. It was dense, single-spaced, and formatted to look like the most boring legal boilerplate in existence. "This forces the venue to install privacy screens and enforce a strict NDA for all staff," I explained. "But because it involves high-level liability, the venue requires the host, that's you two, to assume sole financial guardianship. It basically means that to protect your privacy, the billing profile has to be locked to your legal names. It stops third-party vendors from selling your info." I slid the paper toward Tyler. He glanced at it. He saw words like indemnification, exclusivity, and privacy management. He didn't see the paragraph on page 4. Section C. The novation clause. It was a standard legal instrument I used in corporate restructuring all the time. By signing, Tyler wasn't just asking for privacy screens. He was agreeing to transfer 100% of the financial liability from the planning entity May to the primary beneficiary, him. Effective immediately upon the locking of the vendor schedule. It meant that while I could coordinate the payments, the legal debt belonged entirely to him. If the bill wasn't paid, they couldn't sue me. They could only sue him. "This seems standard," Tyler said, trying to sound like he read contracts for a living. He picked up a pen. "Wait," Linda said. "Does this mean we can kick people out if they try to crash?" "It gives you absolute authority," I lied. "It makes you the king and queen of the castle." Linda smirked at Tyler. "Sign it, Ty. I don't want weirdos at my wedding." Tyler didn't read a single line. He didn't check the liability limits. He just wanted to impress his fiancée and get out of the boring meeting. He scribbled his signature with a flourish. Scritch scratch. The sound was louder than the music in my head. That ink was binding. He had just signed a confession of debt for $85,000. 2 weeks before the wedding, the budget had ballooned from $85,000 to nearly $110,000. Linda decided she needed a champagne wall at the entrance. A literal wall of greenery, with gloved hands passing flutes through holes. It cost $4,000. Tyler decided the standard steak option wasn't masculine enough. He upgraded the menu to Wagyu beef and lobster tails. That was another $12,000. I didn't stop them. In fact, I encouraged it. When Linda asked if the champagne wall was too much, I told her, "It's iconic. It's what separates a wedding from a party." When Tyler hesitated on the beef, I told him, "You're a director of sales, Ty. You can't serve chicken." I was feeding the beast. Every upgrade was another line item on the invoice that was legally theirs, not mine. But Tyler, despite his arrogance, got a sudden flicker of anxiety. We were at my parents' apartment for a logistics check. My mother was stuffing favors into little tool bags while my dad watched TV, nursing a beer. "Lily," Tyler said, looking up from his phone. "The caterer sent me a weird email. Something about finalizing the balance. I thought you paid them?" My mother stopped stuffing bags. "You did pay them, right? We gave you access to everything." By access, she meant they allowed me to organize the bills. They hadn't given me a dime. "Relax," I said, pulling out my phone. "I handle the cash flow, remember? I schedule everything to maximize interest in the holding account. It's basic finance." I opened my banking app. I had set up a dedicated sub-account for the wedding logistics, linked to the main planning profile. I navigated to the bill pay section and handed the phone to Tyler. "Look," I said. Tyler squinted at the screen. He saw a long list of transactions in reassuring green text. Catering Services Inc., $32,500. Floral Designs LLC, $18,200. The Onyx room rental, $40,000. See? I pointed. Green means go. Tyler scrolled down, satisfied. Okay. Good. I just didn't want any hiccups. He handed the phone back. He didn't look closely. He didn't notice the small, gray text right next to the date column. Status. Scheduled. September 16th. The wedding was September 15th. I had scheduled every single massive payment to process on the Monday after the wedding. To a layman like Tyler, it looked like the money was allocated. It looked done. But in the banking world, a scheduled payment is just a ghost. It's a promise, not a transfer. And like any promise, it can be broken. All I had to do was log in 48 hours before the date, select all, and click cancel. The money wouldn't move. The vendors wouldn't get paid. And because of the novation clause he had signed 3 weeks ago, the breach of contract would fall squarely on his head. 3 days before the wedding, the final insult arrived. I was at work, actually doing my real job, when my mother called. She didn't ask if I was busy. She just started screaming. "Where are you?" she demanded. "Linda is having a meltdown." The veil arrived wrinkled, and Buster is acting up again. He's howling and scratching at the door. "You need to come over here right now." I closed my laptop. "Mom, I'm at work. I can't just leave." "We are VIPs this weekend, Lily," she snapped. "We have the rehearsal dinner tonight. Linda needs her beauty sleep. And I need to get my nails done. I cannot be dealing with a sick dog and a wrinkled veil. You need to come get Buster and take him to your place. And bring the steamer." "You want me to take the dog?" "Yes. Get him out of here. He smells like old soup, and he's ruining the vibe. Just deal with it. That's what you do. That's what you do." That was the epitaph of our relationship. Lily deals with the vomit. Lily deals with the bills. Lily deals with the reality so everyone else can live in the fantasy. "Okay," I said. My voice was eerily calm. "I'll come get him." I left work early. I drove to their apartment. My mother tossed the veil at me the second I walked in, then pointed at the dog. Buster was curled up in the corner, looking miserable. He was 14 years old, arthritic, and clearly anxious from all the wedding chaos. "Get him out," she said, waving a hand. "And make sure the veil is perfect for tomorrow. Don't burn it." I didn't argue. I didn't fight back. I picked up the veil. Then I knelt down and clipped the leash onto Buster's collar. "Come on, buddy," I whispered. "Let's go." I walked him out to my car. But I didn't drive to my apartment. I drove 45 minutes north to the Posington, the most ridiculous, luxurious pet resort in the state. It had private suites, orthopedic beds, and a gourmet menu. It cost $200 a night. I checked Buster into a luxury pet resort and paid for a full week using travel points. Points earned from the money my father had stolen from me months earlier. His dog settled into a suite nicer than my first apartment. Safe. Cared for. Out of the blast radius. I texted my father. Buster was paid for until Monday. If he didn't pick him up, the resort would surrender him to animal control. Then I blocked his number. 2 days before the wedding, I opened my laptop. 30,000 to the caterer, 20 to the florist, 40 to the venue. All scheduled. I selected all and clicked cancel. The balance didn't change, the money had never existed. Then I sent one email. Attached was the contract Tyler had signed without reading, containing the clause that transferred all financial liability to him. I resigned as planner and notified every vendor that payment was now his responsibility. I hit send and finished my wine. The collapse began minutes later. Vendors demanded immediate payment. Tyler panicked. With no cash left, he tried to charge everything to his corporate credit card. Declined. He didn't know I'd quietly restricted high-risk merchant categories on his company card for the weekend. The attempt triggered an automated compliance alert to his CFO. Unauthorized transaction, $85,000. The next morning, Tyler showed up at my door with my parents and the police, screaming that I'd stolen his money. I handed the officer a binder. The signed contract proving Tyler owned the debt, and bank logs showing I'd only canceled my own payments. The police dismissed his accusation civil matter. Then they informed him his employer had filed a fraud complaint over the corporate card. They cuffed him. My mother begged me to fix it. I didn't. I closed the door. That afternoon, I used the last of the stolen birthday money, now miles, to book a one-way ticket to Bali. I wasn't running. I was finally done being useful.